Gentlemen, I've recently acquired a simulator racing rig and I wanted to answer the question, will a simulator racing rig make you faster? So to make this comparison, I've been sent out the TR160, all thanks to Trak Racer. Credit to them for giving me the opportunity to make this video, and I will be comparing the TR160 to my previous setup, which was at a desk with a monitor and an office wheelchair pretty much. This won't be just my opinion. I'll be using lap times, amount of laps completed, consistency, and a lot of other factors to compare my old setup to my new setup. So let's go straight to the drawing board. The equipment that I use is the Fanatec CSL Elite wheel and pedals, and I use them both on my desk and the TR160 to give an accurate comparison between the two, and I'll be comparing lap times at the exact same track that I use for both as well. So let's jump into the laps I set around Mexico on the F1 2021 game, and then after this I'll break down the science of those results. So for this experiment we're using the same car, even though it's all equal car performance. We're going to be using the same setup that I used for my desk, so that way it's a fair comparison. And yeah, it's just about setting a better lap time or doing the best that I can with the rig. And as you can see, we're already about half a tenth up, and we're only on our 5th lap. That's an important thing I want to note. We're 5 laps into doing time trial around this circuit, whereas I spent about 50 laps trying to set this lap time around Mexico using the desk setup, and that was in preparation for a league race. But we're only 5 laps in and we're already looking pretty close to the delta that I set using the desk, and it's only been a very short amount of time in comparison. So we're looking very positive at this stage. At this point in time, obviously there's heaps more to gain because I've only done 5 laps in time trial to set this lap. We're almost a 10th up going into the final sector here. I'll correct that, we're about a 10th and a half up, so all we're going to do is just bring it across the line, and we've made a significant improvement here. Almost 2 tenths up through that, but we made a little bit of an error, and we've actually lost a bit of time going through the final sector just due to human error. But anyway, that's half a tenth quicker after 6 laps, or 5 laps. At this point I was like, sure, why not just keep going and see if we can go any quicker than that? So I did. And like, it just didn't seem super fair to compare 50 laps on the desk to 5 laps on the rig. So I thought I'll just do a few more laps. Like, it's already clear to me that the rig is providing me a more consistent platform because I'm not having to set as many lap times to try and get the most out of the car using my own skill. Of course, everyone's got their own skill level. I'm definitely no Jana Otmir, but in comparison to my own skill using the desk, I've had to spend a lot less time to try and maximize my own ability. Now, I know I made a bit of a clumsy S section in my previous lap, so I know there's a fair amount of time to be made up here, and as you can see, we go up to 1.5 tenths into the green there, and we just keep it clean until we have that big snap there. So we lost about half a tenth of a second, which is a shame because that's just free time that I've given away here, and I have another snap of oversteer. But that's another thing, I made one correction there. I didn't have to overcorrect the car, and I was able to keep the lap even though I made that mistake. Whereas with the desk, there would be a whole lot more movement, and there was a high chance to overcorrect the car. And when you overcorrect the car, it takes longer to get the car under control, and you lose more time because of that. So after only 8 laps spending in time trial, I have made an improvement of 78 hundredths of a second. Without any mistakes on that previous lap, that was easily a tenth of a second faster, and if not more, it could have been a tenth and a half faster than my lap time that I set with the desk. So it's already clear to me after such a short amount of time using the rig that it's definitely a more consistent platform, and it just allows you to extract more out of the car with whatever simulator game that you are playing. So let's break it down. A simulator rig can improve your racing game experience in 4 areas: stability, customization, immersion, and comfort. None of these are thought to have had a direct impact on your racing performance, but believe me, it certainly does. Stability is going to be the key ingredient here. The chassis of the rig is not going to be moving around or vibrating like your desk does if you have your wheel set up on your desk, especially if you're using a direct drive wheel, which is more powerful and has more torque. If you're using an office chair with pedals, I guarantee you've pushed yourself away from the pedals by pushing so hard on the brake pedal that your office chair rolls away. This was not just the case for me, but I had to remove the foam within my brake pedal so that my brake pedal became softer so that I could actually use it without pushing myself away from the pedals. This in the end meant I had less feeling in the brake pedal, less consistency, and also the pedal positioning was uncomfortable because I had the pedals on a wooden foot ramp that angled it up so high just to prevent it sliding away. Muscle memory is the key factor to racing performance, and if you use an office chair, your sitting position will be different every single time you sit down at your desk because it's not the exact same distance away from your pedals each time. Not only this, but my office chair would sink into the carpet, and if I didn't adjust it within a few minutes, it would create grooves in which that I couldn't move my office chair into a slightly better position because it would just slide back into the grooves that were already made when I was driving earlier. Now it just doesn't stop there. I have a height adjusting IKEA table, and because of the torque generated from my Fanatec CSL Elite wheel, it was actually able to destroy the mechanism for lifting and lowering my table, so now I can't use it anymore. It's actually broken my table. Not only this, but when I had my webcam set up above my monitor, the force feedback generated from my CSL Elite wheel would shake apart my webcam, so every time I would go over a bump or a curb, my webcam would shake and my actual chat would react like, what's going on? He's breaking his table. Now, my experience so far with the Trak Racer TR160 is my pedals don't move at all. My steering wheel and wheelbase doesn't move at all, and it doesn't shake my webcam. I'm in the exact same seating position unless I want to adjust it like a car seat. It has the actual car seat mechanism that you can slide back and forth, so it's easy to get in and out of the cockpit. And it's all absolutely rock solid. There's no movement in the steering wheel platform or the plates. So you can expect to maximize the muscle memory from your hours that you put in each day, because it's going to be the exact same tomorrow and the day after, and that's something you can get used to very quickly. Customization is also another important thing that Trak Racer seems to provide plenty of with their rigs. I've got the TR160, and it also provides you a keyboard stand, so that way you're not over adjusting yourself or getting out of a seat every time you want to use the keyboard, or you can put something else like a controller on it as well. You also have the option to mount several monitors, up to 4 I believe. You can have one either side of your main monitor and one above. As you can see with my current setup, it has one above my main monitor. But what I suggest is, if you're a YouTuber or a streamer in general, if you're trying to read chat or look at a screen pretty often away from your main screen, it's better to use a monitor to the side rather than one above, because it might strain your neck if you're looking up at something all the time. Luckily, my Trak Racer rig and a lot of other rigs that are on their catalog, they provide the option to have monitors either side, so I can easily mount a monitor to the right hand side. I think that's what I'll end up doing. So that way I can read chat without straining my neck. Or an alternative is you can also adjust the seat angle so it's angled more upwards, and then that way your body's already facing in a more upwards direction when you're looking at the top monitor. I've currently got the fiberglass GT seat. It's not reclinable. That's something you should take into consideration. Trak Racer also provides reclinable seats, so that's an option that you can make. I would also recommend, if you get the fiberglass seat, to get a lumbar support for it so it supports your lower back a little bit better. I just know that from all the time I've spent with my office chair at a desk, it's probably created a lower back injury. So supporting your back is the #1 thing when it comes to simulator racing. The more support and comfort you get from simulator racing, the more hours you'll put in and the faster you'll get, because you'll spend more hours on whatever it is you're playing, Assetto Corsa, F1, GT Sport, or the new Gran Turismo, iRacing, anything you play. Get something that's comfortable for your back, and that's why Trak Racer also provides different options for you. They also provide seatbelts for when you get too drunk and you fall out of your simulator racing seat. I think it's more for motion simulation if you get butt kickers and like hydraulics and all that sort of stuff. But at least from my experience, the TR160 allows you to adjust using the aluminium frame so many different components of the rig. You can adjust the monitor stand, like you can adjust how high it is, how far back it is, how far forward it is. You can adjust your seating position, not in terms of the actual seat itself, but where the seat is located on the frame, how high it sits, the angle it sits. The angle of the wheel is one thing I will actually criticize, is the wheel plate could have been a little bit more customizable, but it certainly wasn't an issue for me in particular. The pedal plate is very customizable. It has a smart mechanism on it that allows you to change the angle, and then you can loosen it, move it forward, move it back, just depending on how tall you are. And currently I have it set up as close as possible to what my road car is, the seating position, so that way when I'm sitting in my road car, it still kind of feels the same because it's very comfortable. Road cars are designed for comfort mostly because you're sitting in it for hours at a time driving from A to B. So I try to copy the same kind of seating position in my rig, and you're able to do that with these rigs that are provided by Trak Racer. So I definitely recommend you have a look at them. There's definitely smaller options. This takes up a fair amount of space. That's one thing I will say, especially if you get triple monitors, it'll take up a lot of space. It is very heavy. I recommend having at least 2 people working on it to build this. It's definitely worth having a helping hand. But in saying that, there's also other options on their catalog. You can get the TR8 or the TR80, which is a lighter frame. The TR8 looks a lot easier to assemble, so that's definitely another option if you're by yourself or you're just starting up and you want something to get your foot in the door for simulator racing. I definitely recommend just having something that's going to be comfortable for you. Don't wait until it's too late and your back is... I'm only in my 20s and I've had simulator endurance races where I've had my legs cramp up and my lower back cramp up and go into spasms because I just was not in the right sitting position. And it's a very long race, and once you have those sort of things turn up while you're racing, it's like almost impossible to race. I've almost had to just stop racing altogether, and that's not what you want to have to go through. So comfort is a huge factor. With my office chair and my desk, it wasn't ergonomic at all because it wasn't the right seating position for racing. And another thing that getting a simulator racing rig is going to do for you is allow you to run better equipment for your racing. So that means you're going to be able to run a DD wheel that's going to, produce more torque on the chassis that you have it mounted to. Whereas if you had it to a desk, it could also shake it, damage it. Another thing is when you're running load cell pedals, they're not going to move away from you. You might not even have the option to run load cell pedals on your carpet because they'll just slide away because of the amount of force that you have to put into the brake pedal. Is just not practical at all. That was not an option for me. Whereas now that it's bolted to the pedal plate and it's not going to move at all, I now have the option to change to load cell pedals, and therefore using better gear is also going to give me the opportunity to improve my performance when driving as well. So lastly, I wanted to talk about all the things that you should consider if you're looking to purchase a rig after this video. The key factors you should look for in a rig is the size, the weight, the cost, the customization, the compatibility, the difficulty of putting it together, and the type of seat that's going to be put on the rig. In terms of size, the TR160 is one of the largest rigs you can get on the market. If you're looking for something smaller, I definitely recommend the TR8 as it looks a lot more compact, has a smaller footprint, and also you can reduce the size of your rig depending on how many monitors you run. If you run 3 monitors, definitely go for it if you have the space. If you don't have the space, there's only really the need for the single monitor, or you can mount another side monitor for your chat or anything else that you need to display while you're racing. Now, weight is definitely something you should consider when purchasing a rig, because if you need to move that rig, it can potentially be very difficult. Luckily, the TR160 has an option for wheels, so if you needed to move it within a room or across the house, you could definitely just wheel it across. But if you need to move it from location to a different location, that's where things can get a little bit complicated. That's why I recommend if you potentially can go for a smaller rig, it might be a better option there. But for a rig such as the TR160, if you need it to move from A to B, it's probably best to break it down to the smaller size chunks and disassemble it, because if you need to lift it, it's going to be extremely heavy, and that's going to be the case with most large rigs. Another reason why I'm bringing up weight is because if you have carpet and you have wheels or legs, I definitely recommend buying the Trak Racer mat or getting a rug or a piece of carpet yourself and putting it underneath the rig so it doesn't destroy the carpet in which it's going to sit underneath. It's already dealing with the weight of the monitors, all your gear, the aluminum frame and the seat, and then your own body weight on top of that. So of course it's going to dig into the carpet, so I recommend getting a rug or the Trak Racer mat that's available at the store as well. For cost, customization and compatibility is totally dependent on what you are willing to spend and what you are wanting to run. So 100% there's plenty of options out there. Luckily we're living in a world post lockdown where a lot of development has been made on simulator rigs because we weren't allowed out of our homes, and the best we could get is an actual simulator rig to real life. But when you're picking a rig, definitely make sure the equipment that you have is able to be mounted onto the wheel plate and also the pedal plate, and also allows you to expand with customization if you're able to add more monitors, a keyboard stand, a shifter, a headphone hook. All these things should allow you to expand on what you've already bought and not have to buy a completely new rig just to have a few of these options. Speaking from experience with assembling the TR160, it wasn't too difficult to put together. I think a lot of it was self-explanatory. For most of it, we didn't even use a YouTube tutorial to put it together, but I definitely do recommend having at least 2 people to assemble some of the parts, such as the monitor stands, fitting the seat. The pedal plate is also not too easy. Things like that, definitely recommend having 2 people. If you have 2 people, it makes the job a lot easier because, for example, one person can just hold the part in place while the other person bolts it. And lastly, when choosing a seat, I personally recommend getting a reclinable seat. If you get a fiberglass seat such as the one that I have, I definitely recommend getting a lumbar support or a cushion to support your back. Some people might love certain seats, and some people might dislike other seats, and it's all because of your body type. That's why it's pretty difficult to create products such as a seat, because it can't suit everyone at the exact same time. So yeah, definitely recommend a reclinable seat. That way you can customize and adjust it just that little bit more, and then it will give you a little bit more comfort in the long run as well. Anyways, that's going to wrap up this video for my comparison between the Trak Racer TR160 simulator racing rig up against my old setup on my desk. Definitely recommend buying a simulator racing rig if you have the budget and the space to do so. It's going to make your life so much more comfortable and just a more enjoyable driving experience for you in the long run. And based on the data that I've collected so far when comparing the two, it has made me faster to about 1/10 of a second. If you'd like more review style videos like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content, and I'll see you all in a brand new video.